Welcome back to the Technolocost channel. I'm your host Technolocost, and today I wanted to get a little personal and share some of my early RPG video game memories with you. I want to share the adventure, the nostalgia, and how I got there, so hopefully that comes across in this video. These games are the ones that shaped my childhood imagination. They're the ones I did my first dungeon crawling and puzzle solving in. This is going to be a full featured video, so it's probably going to be 20 plus minutes long, so kick back, relax, and I hope you enjoy. Well, it's 1980 something, and the journey begins with a movie. Excalibur. This is not just any movie, but a movie that had a ton of firsts for me. It was the first time I was exposed to the King Arthur story. Knights, magic, wizards, and strangely enough, English and Irish accents. Remember, this is pre-internet, and I grew up in Texas. Nobody sounded like that. My brain didn't understand the betrayal and the romantic stuff, but one thing I did like, mainly, was the horses, and the battles, and the blood, and the shiny knight suits, and of course, pulling Excalibur out of the stone. That's all I wanted to do. I wanted Excalibur. Several years later, down the road, sitting in front of my TV on Saturday morning, I see this cartoon called Dungeons and Dragons, and as you can imagine, I was a little excited. The cartoon started with these kids getting on this amusement park ride and then entering the realm of Dungeons and Dragons by some mysterious means. Once they got there, this dungeon master guy would bestow them with these magical powers. Each person in that party would have a different power that would, help them out.
Barbarian? Magician?
I totally wish that would happen to me big time. I used to play around in the woods and pretend I was one of these people. Now in retrospect, I didn't realize that other people were playing the popular tabletop version of this game. I had no idea it existed. Enter the Atari 2600. We all had one of these crammed underneath our TV sets with a shoebox full of games. Most of it was shovelware or arcade ports, very simple shooter games, but for me it was very entertaining, it was a lot of fun. And then one day, I went to a friend's house and I saw something that was a little bit different. The game was called Adventure, and by just looking at the cover, I was really intrigued. It had these elf-looking guys staring at this dragon who was really happy that he had a key, probably to the castle behind him, that no one was going to get. It was the first time I saw an open platform where you could freely move from environment to environment, and you could also use objects and interact with different things. So, like, you could grab a sword and you could kill a dragon that might be protecting a key. So you would, defeat the dragon, grab the key, and use that key to unlock the next door to get to the next puzzle. This game just blew my mind. Also played games in the Sword Quest series that were equally as fun. Now fast forward into the future several years, and my household became the proud owners of an Apple IIe. I loved this computer. I spent every waking minute in front of this monochrome screen, staring at different video games, programming BASIC, things of that nature. I could not get enough of it, but the very first game I was able to purchase for myself was a game called Fantasy, and I based that on the cover art and the description. It said it was a multi-character role-playing odyssey, and I was in for the adventure. Now at this time, kids on the school bus are passing around Nintendo Power magazines with a game called Legend of Zelda in it, and there's other RPGs that they're playing on their Nintendo. Now me, I have a superior computer at home, so when I got home and powered this thing up, I immediately became disappointed. The initial interface was poor, and it was just in text. It took me hours to get my party together, and it required me to pore through the manual to try to build a cohesive party, which was very difficult at my age. Once I began to adventure and go through the dungeons, my party got wiped every time. I really didn't get far in this game after playing for several years. The problem wasn't the game more so than just my age and experience. So again, this is probably a really good game. I had some fun getting some of these screenshots, but it was very difficult as a child. It's 1987, I'm 13 years old, and my best friend just got a Commodore 128 he earned with his paper route money. I really wanted one of these systems. Some of the best games ever were on it. So I did the same thing he did. I got a paper route and saved up for it. I spent the first 6 months, I think, saving up for the keyboard portion, and then another 9 months to save up for the actual disk drive. It took forever, but it was worth every bit of it. This is me featured in the carrier's corner of my newspaper. They kind of did exposés on what kids were doing with their paper route money. Now, as you can imagine, I played a lot of adventure and RPG games on my Commodore 64, but only 2 made this video because they're so near and dear to my heart. The first one is SSI's Polar Radiance. Man, I love this game.
Get crazy!
Dungeons and Dragons!
and it threw me into a universe I was familiar with, Dungeons and Dragons. This is a childhood dream from those early Saturday morning cartoons. I could not wait to go on the adventure, and I did, and I had a lot of fun. The cool thing about this game when you start out, you get to create your character. I remember naming my character my friends' names or my cat's name. I remember swapping out their heads and their bodies. I thought that was cool. Also, I really enjoyed walking around in this 3D immersed world. For the Commodore 64, this was 3D, and you were able to see from your character's point of view. Now, walking around, traversing through different dungeons, you would come across different enemies. And the cool thing about finding different enemies, you would see a different enemy character animation. So it kind of incentivized going around and looking for these guys. Once you entered combat, it was totally different. It was a top-down view of your party. You're able to move them around and reposition them, but it was turn-based. So you would have, say for example, your tough guys in front, maybe your paladin, and then you might have your cleric, and then behind them you might have your magic users and rangers, for missile weapons, and kind of keep them out of the hand-to-hand combat. To say the least about this game, it was immersive. It really was. I spent hours upon hours, weekend upon weekend playing this game, and I would do it all over again. I remember some of these adventures, like going over to Sokol's Keep in the boat, clearing the place out, finding skeletal remains, going into the slums and clearing that out, leveling up my characters, buying gear, pouring through the manual and map and the adventurer's guide for clues that I haven't found. The second game on my list for memories of RPG playing on the Commodore 64 has to be Legacy of the Ancients. After waiting a while for the Commodore 64 to boot, you'd be introduced with this galactic museum in the background and this great music. The cover of the game featured this Conan the Barbarian looking guy charging this cat-like creature that was defending something. Really awesome, but you never actually saw this creature in the game. Strangely enough, another thing you never saw again was Electronic Arts making good stuff, and they did back then. They made a ton of it for the Commodore 64. The game opens up with you finding a dead guy. I think he might be sheep herding or something weird like that, and he's got a glowing bracelet on his wrist and a coin. You're not a thief, as I think it says, but you take the stuff anyway. Now, the Galactic Museum, it plays a huge part in this game. It's kind of like Mario 64, where you jump through different portals to get to different areas. Now, one thing that was really cool about this game is the terrain slows you down and uses up more food. You can buy things like boots. You can buy a raft eventually and go from different areas that you couldn't walk to, or it'd be easier and you don't have to worry about as many encounters. Now, for me, what really shined about this game is when you entered a village. You still had a top-down view, but you're actually in the village until you walked into a building. You could talk to merchants, buy gear from boots to raft and spells, things like that, and then you could also actually have training sessions. The training sessions were a lot of fun as you were actually involved in increasing this skill. So this example is one where you're shooting a bunch of fireballs and that increases your dexterity. This game was jam-packed with different things to do, from games of chance where you would play blackjack, things like that, some football game, to robbing banks and taking money and having all the guards and have to fight them. I would do this a lot right after I saved my game. It was kind of a challenge to see if you could just wipe out the whole city and take all their money. Really hard to do. Whether you're walking on top of the earth, so to speak, or down in the dungeon, combat's very simple. Whatever you had armed is what you're going to use, and you just press the fire button. The dungeons were colorful, and so were the monsters. This was just so much fun. I remember this like it was yesterday. I would turn out the lights in my room on summer vacation, and I would just play this all night, cranking down sodas. This happened until the final night, when, sadly enough, I beat the game. It was bittersweet. I completed the game, and I was really sad because it was over. There's nothing left to do. I wouldn't experience this game again unless I played the whole thing over again, which I haven't since then. But man, it was the first time I actually beat an actual game. Not like a shooter or anything like that, but an actual real RPG game. I stuck through and I took on the adventure and I won. I sat on my porch and watched the sunrise that morning and I cried. It's strange, but it happened. I still get choked up today. The weight was finally lifted off my shoulders. I saved the known universe of this magic land that I visited every day. and I stayed up all night, so I was totally delirious. I continued to play my Commodore 64 for many years after that, and I started getting in my late teens, I'd probably say, 16, 17 years old, and the Sega Genesis came out. I got the Sega Genesis for Christmas, and I really loved the system a lot. I enjoyed playing Sonic and things like that. Well, one day I saw Warriors of the Eternal Sun in the Dungeons & Dragons universe in a catalog, and I asked for it for my birthday, and I got it. And boy, I was really impressed and had a lot of fun with this game, and it would be the next RPG game that I ended up beating. From the beginning, you kind of get the storyline where the humans and the goblins are fighting each other, and they made it sound like it's the last battle. Like whoever wins this is going to rule the entire planet, until something happens. The earth starts to tremble, the goblins and the humans are now freaking out, and then they too get whisked away to an alternate universe similar to the kids in the amusement park ride. Starting out like any other D&D RPG, you're going to create your party, and then, of course, in this case, talk to the king, and he pretty much tells you, hey, you're on your own, because all of our guards are guarding the castle, so go out there, find me artifacts and allies, and good luck. Serve me well. And that's it. Thanks. The menu system allows you to, look at different things like the map. This is a map of the actual world that you're in, and then you're able to save your game wherever you want, which is pretty cool. You can swap items in and out from your first and secondary. You can switch to your characters, look at your hit points, everything in a very simple, easy to use menu. The combat system was equally as easy to use. It being a console, they kind of thought this through, so whatever you specified as your first weapon would be one button, and then as your second weapon or secondary skill, whether it be magic or a slingshot or a missile weapon, that would be the other button. The game really gave you a sense of adventure where you would find hidden spots and you would do some dungeon crawling and fight really interesting monsters and, be able to get loot and treasure. Treasure's really just artifacts. The artifacts are analyzed by this guy in town that is trying to solve a mystery, so to speak. It's part of the overarching storyline. The townspeople are going crazy, something's going on since you've been in this world, and you have to try to get all the artifacts and solve the problem. Spoiler alert, this is the end of the game outro, but you end up finding this particular artifact that they're looking for. You find the source of your people's madness in town, and then your buddy, the T-Rex, dinosaur, T-Rex, weird, I know, battles this creature and, saves the known universe that you're now living in. You live happy ever after in this strange world, and have you seen my cat? Yeah, that's actually at the end of the title credits. That was hilarious. At least I thought it was hilarious at the time. Now for my last and beloved memory for RPGs, I'd have to say it's Eye of the Beholder. This game was really unique at the time for all its little dungeons and traps and things like that. Here features the Super Nintendo version, which if you have the Super Nintendo mouse, I suggest you get this game. I got this a couple years ago, but the original system I played it on was the Commodore Amiga. Strangely enough, I sold everything I owned, including my Sega Genesis, to get the Amiga. The screenshots you're going to see are all from the Commodore Amiga, but the Super Nintendo is equally as good, and I'm sure all the other variants are as well. Making this video was a lot of fun as I got to relive some of these experiences again. Nostalgia is one hell of a drug. Me rolling dice here is just a shout out to the actual tabletop game itself. I'm a big fan. Like any proper Dungeons & Dragons game, you're able to select your portrait, name your character, select your sex, your race, and also re-roll any of the attributes you need for your particular class. Now you remain in this first-person point of view for navigation and real-time combat, which it excels in, unless you're in the menu system. This game really showed the evolution of gaming. Use the mouse for everything you did. Another thing that was different from the other RPGs I played in the past was this game had a lot of puzzles in it, or hidden traps, things of that nature, where you had to, press a mossy rock on the wall to open a particular door, or you'd hear a sound down the hall, and then you'd have to put two and two together, maybe put a rock on a pressure pad, and then maybe press a button in another hidden place to get a door to open up. Really cool. First time I'd ever seen anything like it. This type of gaming ended up getting really popular, and if you're looking for a new spin on this, I suggest looking for The Legend of Grimlock. It's excellent, and it's well priced right now, but it's the modern equivalent of this game. I could spend endless hours playing this game, from the real-time combat that kept me on the edge of my seat and also kept the inner caveman in me very happy, the puzzle solving which kept my brain going and, got me stuck a few times and made me frustrated, and the environmental sounds when you're walking down the hall and you're hearing your enemies breathe through different doors or you're hearing doors close and open. I love this game. Well, it's wintertime in Ohio, so I've got to leave the game room and I've got to shovel some snow, but I really appreciate you showing up and watching this video. I just wanted to share a little bit of myself with the community. So with that, go ahead and comment down below of your earliest RPG experiences and nostalgia. Also, video comments are very welcome too. Even if it's just you eating Cheetos on the couch griping about a game you did not complete, that's totally fine too. So we're all a community, let's communicate. So like I said, thumbs up, I would appreciate it, and subscribe and you'll get updates of videos I release. So now I'm gonna go shovel snow. Anyway, Technolocost, out.
Staff, you have entered the door to the north. You are now by yourself, standing in a dark room. The pungent stench of mildew emanates from the wet dungeon walls.
Where are the Cheetos?
They're right next to you.
I cast a spell. Where's the Mountain Dew?
In the fridge, duh.
I want to cast a spell.
Can I have a Mountain Dew?
Yes, you can have a Mountain Dew, just don't get it. I can cast any of these, right? On the list?
Yes, any of the first level ones.
I'm gonna get a soda. Anyone want one? Hey, Graham, I'm not in the room, right? What room? I want to cast Magic Missile. A room where he's casting all these spells from. He hasn't cast anything yet. I am, though, if you'd listen. I'm casting Magic Missile.
Why are you casting Magic Missile? There's nothing to attack here.
I'm attacking the darkness.
Fine. You attack the darkness. There's an elf in front of you.
Whoa! That's me, right?
He's wearing a brown tunic, and he has gray hair and blue eyes.
No, I don't. I have gray eyes.
Let me see that sheet.
Well, it says I have blue, but I decided I wanted gray eyes.
Whatever. Okay, you guys can talk to each other now if you want.
Hello.
Hello.
I am Gallstaff, Sorcerer of Light.
Then how come you had to cast Magic Missile?
You guys are being attacked.
Do I see that happening?
No, you're outside by the tavern.
Cool, I get drunk.
There are 7 ogres surrounding you.
How could they surround us? I had Mordenkainen's magical watchdog cast.
No, you didn't.
I'm getting drunk. Are there any girls there?
I totally did. You asked me if I wanted any equipment before this adventure, and I said no. But I need material components for all my spells, so I cast Mordenkainen's faithful watchdog.
But you never actually cast it.
Roll the dice to see if I'm getting drunk.
Yeah, you are.
Are there any girls there?
Yeah.
I did, though. I completely said when you asked me.
No, you didn't. You didn't actually say that you were casting the spell. So now there's ogres, okay?
Ogres? Man, I got an ogre slaying knife. It's got a +9 against ogres.
You're not there. You're getting drunk.
Okay, but if there's any girls there, I want to do them.